All right, guys. Hey there, happy Wednesday. Welcome to my third video blog, video diary, whatever you want to call it. I don't really know. Excuse me. Today what I want to talk about is mental health and proper diagnosis. So that was kind of my original plan, to kind of start at the origin story of my mental health journey, if you will. But then the last video kind of felt really urgent and really important and like something I wanted to share with you guys. Sorry about that. So yeah, when it comes to mental health, if you have a mental health illness, or you know someone, or even if this is all new to you, you may not be aware that there are a lot of different diagnoses out there. So I have bipolar disorder, but there are other things out there like borderline personality disorder, anxiety disorders. There are things like schizophrenia, major depressive disorder, and a whole slew of others. Those are some of the most common ones. So the problem with there being this many diagnoses, you would think that it would be relatively easy to figure out what you have. But that's not always the case. So the issue with mental health illnesses is that a lot of these diagnoses present very, very, very similar symptoms, sometimes even the same ones, with small discrepancies, minor changes in presentation and things like that. So it can be very difficult to accurately determine what you're working with and what kind of medication needs to be prescribed based on that diagnosis. So I guess I just kind of want to start at the beginning of my story, my mental health journey. So back in the second grade, maybe a little bit before then, but most definitely second grade, I was diagnosed with ADHD. So I started taking some medication, and things instantly started to improve for the most part. You could see major differences in things like my handwriting. I mean, it was sloppy, barely legible, and then almost overnight, it was great. My attention to detail, my ability to shut my mouth for long enough to listen to a teacher talk. These things were all pretty key indicators that the medication was doing what it was supposed to be doing. So over a course of the next 6 years, I took a variety of different medications, and that's not uncommon. That's something I want to dive into in a later discussion, but it can take multiple medications to figure out what the best one is for you. So, through the 8th grade, I was working with some medications. I was working with some therapy, and things were doing okay. Most of my symptoms were being stemmed. But the problem was, while I was at school, I was able to kind of hold everything in, do what I was supposed to do, and be a good girl, behave, whatever you will. And then I would get home and all hell would break loose. Mom, if you're out there, Dad, if you're out there, sis, if you're out there, you all can attribute, I am sure, and I do apologize for that. And thanks for sticking with me all these years, even though you kind of have to, I guess, because you're my family. But so after about the 8th grade, hi William, hi Uno. He's just here for moral support and puppy cuddles. Everyone say hi to Uno. So after about the 8th grade, I kind of stopped taking medication, stopped going to therapy. And that was, a lot of that was on me. It was me throwing a fit, saying that was not something I wanted to do anymore, and that it was stigmatizing and dehumanizing, and I did not enjoy it, and it made me feel crappier because I felt like the medication made me less of a person, or I felt like the medication was my whole existence, was my whole defining factor, if you will. So yeah, that happened. And then when I was in high school, I had a period of, like, I guess subtle self-injury, if you will. So it started with me just picking at my eyelashes, and then one day they were all gone, and we didn't really know if they were gone due to stress or gone because I was pulling them, because I honestly didn't even remember doing it until I caught myself doing it one day, and they would grow back in and I would just pluck them right out. And I mean, all of you guys who knew me in high school, even through college a little bit, can attest to the fact that I legitimately did not have eyelashes for a very, very long time. And as you can see, they have grown back in now and have been there and steadily and healthily for many years now, which I am very proud of. Seems like a silly thing to be proud of, but I promise you guys, there's no milestone too small. So yeah, anyways, high school. Some weird stuff going on there. And then when I graduated back in 2013, the summer following that, I did a serious bad thing and cut myself off from basically everyone that summer. You know, right now we're in a time of uncertainty with COVID-19 and the coronavirus, you know, and people are social distancing and self-quarantining. So a lot of you out there are probably experiencing this weird phenomenon where you don't get out of your house and you don't participate in a lot of social activities, and it's probably pretty hard. And for me, that was something that I chose to do. And I guess my hope is that for all of you out there, oh no, there weren't my glasses, sorry guys. For all of you out there who are currently having to participate in social distancing and self-quarantining, that you are still staying in those relationships, your friendships, your family, your significant other. You know, make sure that you're reaching out, FaceTime, streaming, just talking on the phone or texting. Make sure you're getting in that social interaction. But again, I digress. So when I was self-isolating that summer, I didn't talk to pretty much anyone. A couple of people here and there. Shout out to my friends who stuck through me. You know who you are. Shout out to my family for sticking with me. Pretty rough time. Honestly, couldn't tell you how I made it to college. Kind of a miracle in itself. And yeah, I mean, I remember that summer I got the heaviest, darkest blanket that I could and threw it over the window so it would block out all the sunlight. And I did not leave my room very much at all. So then I went to college. When I was in college, I was like, you know, had a couple of mental health episodes, one really rough semester in particular. I'm so sorry to my organic chemistry professor. If you were out there, I'm so glad I retook that class with you and was able to fully appreciate you as a professor and the subject. But that first time around, I was struggling with a lot of stuff and wasn't really giving my all to my schoolwork. And so around that time, at the beginning of college, after high school, and then on through like my freshman and sophomore year, I was kind of bouncing around seeing some providers, hoping to get medication and proper diagnosis. And in that period of time, I received a diagnosis of major depressive disorder and generalized anxiety. And so these disorders are pretty common, and they often go hand in hand. And so I was being medicated for both of those. And the medications were treating a lot of the symptoms, but not everything. And so I felt like something wasn't quite right. So I guess during my senior year, maybe 2016-ish, I saw a new mental health provider, and we kind of discussed all of my previous diagnoses, starting all the way back in the second grade. We talked about a bunch of life events, a bunch of things that could have affected how I got to be where I am, or where I was at that point. and he determined that I had bipolar disorder. And this was after lots of conversation, lots of questions, lots of ranking your symptoms and all that crap that sucks. It took a long time, but I started taking medication for bipolar disorder, and I've been steadily on medication for bipolar disorder, and it seems to be doing the job. It seems to be treating all the symptoms and suppressing the mania, suppressing the depression, and it's kind of stemming everything to where I'm at a relatively normal baseline, and can kind of function properly. Of course, as I mentioned before, medication sometimes needs corrected, changed dosages, and that's something I definitely want to talk about another day, because that's a whole nother issue. But for the most part, we're doing good. And what I found really interesting about this was my doctor indicated to me that a lot of times children who are diagnosed with ADHD actually have bipolar disorder. So in young children, the symptoms can often mimic ADHD. The same area of the brain is affected. So that is why that was my diagnosis, and that's why some of the medications did work, because the same areas of the brains were being affected. And this is something I encourage you to look more into. If anyone's ever told you this, any of your providers have ever mentioned anything like this, do your own research, see what's out there. But my takeaway for today, what I really want to impart to all of you is, it's going to take a while. It's going to really suck, and you're going to kind of hate it for a little bit, and you're going to want to give up. And I really, really do encourage you to try a different provider. Have hard conversations with your doctor, and be open and honest, because your doctor's not there to judge you, and if they are, you definitely need a new doctor. Your doctor is there to listen to your symptoms and to provide feedback and kind of help you understand who you are and what your illness is and how to best treat that. So I encourage you not to give up. I almost did, and I'm glad I didn't. But keep pushing, keep striving, and yeah, I guess that's all I have today, guys. Questions, comments, concerns, feedback, what have you, hit me up in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I hope you're staying safe out there, and don't forget, wash your hands. Bye.